Well, today's episode is going to be a follow-up of the last episode.
I am very excited. We were talking about the last episode with some different people, and they had so many questions.
Yep.
And then we realized, oh, well, we actually need to go even deeper into the topic because it's bringing up a lot for people. And I think it's because it's such an unexplored territory, and it's a gorgeous territory.
And that is the territory of the cervix.
Yes.
So this episode, however, as opposed to the last one, which focused on like what's the cervix and what does it mean for a woman,
Yes.
we're going to be talking about, well, what's the cervix for men and what's in it for them.
In relationship
Yes.
to the male experience of this very unusual body part that often gets avoided and is randomly contacted. So,
Well, first of all, let's just start off because we don't know if anyone's seen the last episode. Is like, what is the cervix? So cervix in Latin, it basically means the neck. In fact, in Spanish, it's el cuello del útero is like what it'd be like. So it'd be like the neck of the uterus,
Yes.
which basically is the neck of the womb. So the cervix is actually an internal
well, it's
organ.
interesting because there is the neck, but then there's what I refer to as the cervix is the mouth
Yes.
of that neck.
So the cervix itself, and most people, when they think of the cervix, they're looking at it from a place of reproduction. Like, oh, this is the part that dilates
Yes.
right before the baby comes
comes
out. And it even like turns blue, in fact, when a woman is pregnant due to the extra blood flow and everything else. So, in fact, that's how midwives will know that.
And doctors.
And doctors know that a woman is pregnant. So, some cool stuff. But in this episode, we want to be focusing on not just the cervix as a part of reproduction, but actually as an important part of one's system of pleasure.
Absolutely.
So when you're talking about its ability to open, in fact, that you said like the mouth of it, that means that during sexual arousal, that the cervix will actually be able to descend, not just pull away. This right there is a huge difference
Yes.
between what we're being taught around a woman's pleasure system.
Well, first of all, and we did address this in the last episode, but I want to restate it, is that so many people are like, why do we even bother with this thing? Whether it's a professional who is looking at cervixes all day long, like a doctor or an OBGYN, they're like, why? Unless there's a problem with it, why are we worrying about it? Or just in regular sexual, like I don't think it's the highlight of pornography. So people don't really know. Some people don't even know what it is. I've never even heard of it.
No, there's just sort of that like strange little niche of porn where it's like, oh, let's have a speculum and basically spread her open and then be able to see this part of the cervix.
Clearly,
so
I don't watch
again, but anyways, I want to continue though with the what though,
Yeah.
which is this little mouth.
Yeah.
So it is able to dilate and open. Now, from a pleasure system perspective, this means that the cervix can actually lower. It can open. It can latch on and literally start to suck on, create added stimulation
Sounds nice.
to the penis. And from a guy's perspective, this is just one of the most intense pleasures and sensations that you can begin to
Can we
experience.
unpack what you mean by that? Because just saying it's the most intense pleasure for a guy doesn't give any like descriptive context.
Okay,
I'd
so
love
hold your
that.
hand like this for me. This hand here. We'll use this vagina. I'm going to have you do it this direction here. So this is the vaginal walls.
Okay.
And then the cervix doesn't come in from this end right here.
Yeah.
In fact, it comes more down from this angle. And when there's the room and space and arousal, it actually descends this way and then heads in towards the entrance of the vagina. So as
it
the
has
penis
this
is
really lovely scoopy movement.
Precisely. Now, so bring the penis in like this.
My penis.
They meet literally
Hello.
right here.
Ding-a-ding.
And then it dilates, it sucks onto the head of the penis, and then it actually can then pull up and suck or come down
And does
even
the penis
pulse
get moved?
into. Absolutely.
Isn't that
I mean,
cool?
the
That
penis
is so cool.
most people think of the cervix as, oh, this is the place that I'm going to avoid because there's pain, and that isn't just for the woman. Also, the guys, like, you have guys that are, let's say, a conscious lover. They will try and actually avoid the cervix because they're like, oh, I don't want to create pain.
Yes, because it again, in regular sex, just normal sex that people they just do naturally. The one time you do contact it is often through intense thrusting, doggy style is the big one where this can happen, and it hurts. I don't know if it is
the body posture you'll see when that happens is this.
And I don't know if it's comparative to being kicked in the balls, but it hurts so much, and it can hurt for days and into weeks.
The body reaction is the same. It goes into the gut.
Yeah.
You curl over. You can feel nauseated. You literally can feel like you need to throw up. You lose your breath.
And the reason I'm bringing it up is just for men to be able to relate
precisely
to this sensation.
So an unskilled lover bangs into it, and you'll hear this in all kinds of, popular music. It's like, oh, I beat it up, I went deep, I hit it hard, this type of thing.
Yeah.
Then you have your conscious lover, which is like, oh, this is the part that's really sensitive, so I'm going to avoid it.
Yes.
And then you have your masterful lover. And so all of you out there, if you're wanting to be a masterful lover, it is learning how to invite down the cervix. It is how to engage with it, because the sensations that are created, not just in the woman's body, but also in the guy's body, are absolutely tremendous.
I didn't want to know so much more. So let's rewind. You said it's an intense, pleasurable sensation.
Well, that gets back to that little mouth activation there. So in the cervix, there is an exterior Oz and an interior Oz.
Okay.
So EOS and IOS. That sounds a little technical, but stick with me here. So let's go ahead and have
the cervix again.
Well, that's your vagina. Let's go like this here for me with the other hand. So right here is, let's say, where the cervix is dilating. Yeah, it actually does look like a penis head, but unlike a penis head, though, it actually kind of like, it opens. So right here, there's going to be an external Oz, which if you were to go in, and you're not going to be able to go
all the way in
because to the womb, because then there's this internal Oz. So if the womb's up here, where the womb comes together on the back side of the neck of the cervix, so if this was the womb, here would be an Oz, where from this perspective, it only opens if there's a baby coming out.
Inner Oz.
My inner Oz. But it's going to stay closed. So you don't have to have this worry about, oh, I'm going into the womb.
Well,
but then that external Oz, though, that's the one that starts to dilate and open. And it can actually open up and then bring a finger in.
I want to just have a side note.
Or a penis.
Side note here is that there are prostitutes in Thailand who are specifically trained with the trick to open their cervix and swallow the penis. So it is interesting, and I'm not advocating for this, but I just think it's interesting that the cervical dilation can be actually a trained thing.
Yes.
So I'm just saying that so that we understand the range of what's possible. I'm not saying we need to go there, but the range of what's possible. And you may just naturally start to feel this tiny little dilation, even if it's not like bringing anything deeply in, just as you said, it creates a suction.
Well, and it's different too, if you are before having children or after having children, the amount that it opens, it still happens.
Is post more flexible?
Post, it seems to be more flexible in what I've noticed. However, though, in terms of the sensation that's created and the fact that it's still happening, does not matter if this is pre or post having children.
Amazing.
It's absolutely incredible.
I'm imagining too, fast forwarding to a couple that wants to have a child, that learning this skill would be super helpful. One, to induce labor at the appropriate time that it needs to be. But two, during the actual act of giving birth, that there's a connection with this part of the body, so it's not such an alien experience or a scary experience. It can become something very, you hear about women going to what's called the birth portal, which is a very transcendent, psychedelic, like they even talk about, so many women report seeing past family members that have passed on, coming and talking to them. And
so can you give a little explanation what you're talking about? This is as a woman is
giving birth.
Cervix
is dilating. She's going through the pain pleasure process of dilation. And I say pain pleasure because
a child's coming through.
A child is coming.
Which, by the way, is mitigated by sexual stimulation.
Yes, and if you want to induce labor and it's not coming, you want to have sex and you want to get stimulating that cervix.
Yes.
So I'm just saying it's a really amazing gift of humanity that we don't really tap into it, but if we could, we make sex more fun. We make monthly periods probably less painful, I
Well,
imagine.
I would not say probably. That is absolutely what I've noticed in my work, working with over 1,000 women, that when this cervix has that ability to have the freedom to move, then not only is there more choice in terms of meeting a penis, meeting whatever is coming in to create pleasure, but that movement then creates easier movement during the monthly cycle, which means that you have not just pain-free periods, but pleasureful periods.
Also, something interesting, and it's blamed on hormones, but I really feel it's also blood flow.
Yes.
And so for postmenopausal women, there's this thing where the uterus shrinks and then all these issues are happening. But I think if you are in the practice of breathing and mobilizing this area and always having blood flow there, I'm imagining you can at least not necessarily delay, but kind of lessen the amount of
It's just
atrophy.
the same thing that you have with working out. If you do not use your muscles, then they atrophy.
Yeah, and
if you have any part of your body that is not getting proper blood flow, it will atrophy.
Yeah.
And that becomes more important as we age. But the beauty of it, though, is if we continue to do it as we age, it becomes even more robust.
I have to say, things are only getting more amazing for me. I just have to say. So, but I want to go back to the male experience.
That's what I wanted to talk about as well.
And
yes.
because this episode's really like, guys, why would you do this? What's in it for you? And ladies, if you have a partner and they're kind of like not that interested in this might give you some insights on how it could become more interesting for them.
Yes.
And so where I want to come from is not me as a skillful woman who's learned all these things and I can bring this experience to a man. I want to hear, what if I have no skills?
Yeah.
What if it's a one-night stand and you are very skilled because you've learned about the cervix, you've interacted with it, you understand your own cock in a very particular way where you can invite these things. I mean, suction sex is essentially like an amazing tool for this. I would love to hear that perspective. And I know we're going to share more stories in the explicit side, but if you have something, like where did this interest begin for you? How did it really, I mean, I know that I and also your past partners have said, you're obsessed with the cervix. I know that they never had a partner so focused on that area of the body. So what was it for you specifically that lent to this interest?
Well, to answer your question immediately before then stepping back a second, I would say that I wasn't obsessed with the cervix. I was obsessed with the sensation that it creates in my body, as well as then the experience it provided for my partner.
Can you describe that sensation? Because you've alluded to it a few times. And just imagine, I've never had chocolate cake, and you love it, and you eat it, and you just know it so well. How would you describe it?
So the sensation of interacting with the cervix is one that starts, at least for me, begin to bring in my journey down the path of like what are energetics. Let me rephrase that again. When I started to interact with the cervix, I would feel an electrical charge. I would feel intense amounts of heat going through my body. It's where I started to really begin to feel what it was like to have one body with the other person with whom I was in a sexual experience. So my boundaries, not in the sense of I need to protect myself, but my edge of like, where do I begin and the other person starts? That's where mutual pleasure, that's where these non-dual states
and the bidirectionality.
The non-dual states begin to start. And really, yes, understanding that penetration is not just a one-directional experience, but bidirectional. Okay? So we're going to be going into the members area where we talk about the how to do this, but just to drop you all a quick little note here so that you can know the techniques and really the general understanding of the system of pleasure and how to interact with it is that, first of all, the thing that is going to make you an extraordinary lover is not about who you are and what you do. It is about what you can bring out of the other person and who they can become during that experience. And then when those two meet, all of a sudden, your penis size doesn't matter in the sense of this works for a person that has a small penis or a large penis or a medium-sized penis or a left or right curving one or a twirl one, whatever it might be. Because you learn how to invite the cervix down. You learn how to interact with it as opposed to impact it. And that's another important distinction. The cervix is only going to be brought into its full erectile function when it is then invited to come down. And to do that, it's not about plowing forwards, but actually using movements that bring it down. And that's a huge game changer.
So the man, how his biomechanics, how he's literally thrusting or moving or however he's moving, affects inside the body whether the cervix comes down or not.
So there is the body mechanics that he uses.
Yeah.
There is also then the psychological space that he creates by engaging the woman's mind as well.
So is that partly like safety and eroticism?
And then there's the emotional component. So that emotional component is what creates the trust. The psychological component is that she essentially loses like the inhibitions of, maybe it's like the shame or whatever else it is, and can just be in the experience. And all of that happens from the sensation that's generated by using different body mechanics than you encounter in porn, where essentially the woman is a passive receiver and the man is a careless, just get what I want, versus being an adaptive giver to her being an active receiver.
My desire for all of humanity is for them to realize that friction sex is it's even worse than McDonald's. Yes, it's readily available. And maybe for a few moments it tastes good, but then it's just kind of not satisfying and kind of leaves the body eh. So to understand that with very little training, to be honest, because our study showed that when people just did something once, they already had a huge transformation. So this is really just a lack of know-how, and that's not on you. That's on how you were raised, how sexual education was made available, and then the living examples that we get to witness through media. And so by just some very basics, which in Embodied Love University, we have made a foundational training that has 5 pillars, a lot of training within each of those pillars, that will successfully already put you in a place where sex is going to be completely different. And it's going to feel amazing, not just for your partner, which is a lot of times, I think, the motivation for men, but also for you as a guy. It's going to be, I think you just keep wanting to have sex more and more and more, as far as I can tell.
Completely. This is what you need to understand, men. If a woman is protecting her cervix from you, then she is not fully available to you. Now that's the negative framing. The positive framing is when her cervix comes down, you feel deeply trusted and you get the visceral experience of being desired and actually chosen by her body. And the sensation of that is incredible.
It's multifaceted, isn't it?
The emotion of that is incredible. And this here, so we're going to now a bit of the why you would want to do this. It creates a tremendous mutual pleasure experience between the two of you. You start to realize the power that actually is within your cock, what you are able to, with her, begin to unlock in her body, which already flies against the advice that, penises, and penetration is just for a man.
Yes.
This is how you then create mutual pleasure. And then also the ability to create deeper bonds and intimacy between you and another person.
Okay, because it's a pet peeve of mine, so I'm just going to say it and then we'll keep move on. But every day I see posts from people who really feel that there's a righteousness in it, in that it's not all about penetration.
Yes.
But I am sorry, when I am alone and there's nobody around and there hasn't been anyone around for a while, guess what I start to do more of? I go in.
Yes.
I go in, and there's a reason for that. A natural impulse to understand the inner landscape and to claim that inner landscape as a woman, to penetrate, to go into that part of our being. It is designed to open us to more creativity, to more confidence, to be able to access transcendent states. These are very important in a world that's trying to keep us down and afraid and depressed and like compressed and just uncreative. So penetration is absolutely essential. It's not just for men. Even if there's no men around, going into that landscape and activating that is so crucial. The problem is, though, is how we've been doing it.
Yes.
So how we've been doing it, that's how I feel about it. I don't want it. I do not want that. I'd rather be alone the rest of my life than have that.
Well, when they talk about the orgasm gap, they set it up as if it is a heteronormative problem. However, we've worked with homosexual couples, and it is a penetration problem. Whether it's with gay men or with lesbian women, does not matter because the mechanics of penetration as it is create the avoidance of the cervix, and there's only kind of this idea that we need to squeeze for having pleasure.
Yes.
We need to elongate the vaginal canal. When you learn the body mechanics, that even if you don't interact and touch the cervix, those body mechanics, this way of reaching down with the cervix, and as a man being able to invite this down to be met by you, this is what makes penetration feel alive. This is how you elicit an entirely different female response through the act of penetration.
I have to say, as a man having this skill, your cock becomes something highly addictive. I mean, it's just like, I just want more and more and more. And not in a negative sense of that, because there is satiation with every experience. But it's almost like, it's like that wonderment of life. You're just like, that was so good. I love swimming in that beautiful sea. I didn't want to do it again. It's not like, oh, I swam in the sea, I'm good for the rest of my life. No, I swam in the sea, I'm like, oh, that was so amazing. I want to get back in there. And so that's that feeling of really being able to have satisfying sex, not just for one person, but that mutual satisfaction.
Well, when you eat junk food, you can get that quick experience.
Yes.
You get the sugar high, you get the grease or whatever else it is, and then you're in this really like kind of comatose state. Versus you eat a really nutritious meal, and you're like, oh, I have the energy I need. My stomach feels great.
My mouth is singing because it was so tasty.
And you want more. Whereas after the fast food one, you're like, what did I even want? I can't even look at that anymore. Whereas if it's a nice, nutritious, delicious meal, it actually leaves you desiring to have that meal again, while at the same time being satisfied with the experience.
Yes.
And when you begin to engage with the entire CUV complex, the clitoral, urethral, vaginal complex, as well as the cervix and the womb, then that becomes a mutual experience of pleasure. Penetration comes alive for both parties.
Absolutely.
And you are left desiring and being in awe and wonderment of your partner both ways.
Yes. I want to talk briefly before we go into hows and all of that. I want to talk briefly of the kind of the deeper impact in the psychosexual aspect of people knowing how to do this, whether it's a solo woman who really has control of her body, she's learned her mechanics, so she, in any sexual experience with anybody, can create her own delicious experience and be satisfied with that, even if there's zero skill with the other partner. Reverse. The man is very skilled. He comes into any situation with any partner, whether it's his beloved of 50 years or a one night stand situation. There's a skill set to create beauty, to create intense levels of pleasure that are off the charts. There's no charts measuring those. It's like you break through those charts. There's no more ceiling. You have no idea what's going on. It's amazing. And then that person, whoever you're with, looks at you pretty much like a god. It's like, what just happened. I have never in my life had this experience. And whether it's your one partner going, whoa, we've never been there before. What just happened? Over and over again. Or as I said, in one night stands or more casual experiences with partners, still having this. And why wouldn't we go for that gift, that deep, deep gift? So on a psychosexual level versus two beggars trying to there's nothing in the bowl and they're both trying to beg from each other, but there's nothing there, versus two people with gourmet plates. It's way more interesting. Now, if there's one person with a gourmet plate and the others doesn't know yet, well, then you can kind of open up their world. There's something else available, and maybe they'll get curious and maybe they'll start to also explore. So I just think that there's a lot of beauty that's missing. People are going to have sex no matter what. Why not make it impactful, deeply mutually satisfying, something that leaves you when you step back into work or handling your family or doing whatever. You're well-resourced, you're more resilient, you're more joyful and playful. As adults, we forget to laugh, we forget to play, we forget that this is meant to also be fun. And so when the head of the penis and the cervix come together and the hearts, your heart space, whether you're in love or not, it doesn't matter, that opening of the heart space where you start to feel joy for no reason and enthusiasm for being alive, that I think is the biggest internal pharmaceutical medicine we can give ourselves, because there's so much sadness, so much depression, so much just fear and anger. And so if we can dose ourselves with the positive hormones and the positive neurotransmitters and go into our own self-induced psychedelic states on the regular, then we bring back what it really means to be a human being and to give our lives deeper meaning. And I think this is why I'm so passionate that people learn about the cervix, that men understand this is not just about women's pleasure. That's already extraordinary, what can happen in a female body. But in a male body that has this experience, who you are as a man, how you see women, how you see the person you're in love with, I think there's a new level of awe, of reverence, of respect, of curiosity. I don't know, maybe you can speak to that, but that's my sense. And so I do think that it's a worthy cause.
So let's talk about the why for men. Okay? So this is the biggest motivator when coaching men, is either how they can have more pleasure in their body or how a partner can have more pleasure in their body. And when it comes to the cervix, you need to understand that the cervix is not the end of the vagina, it is the threshold to deeper states of pleasure.
It's also the beginning of what our good friend Dr. Lauren Davis portrayed and showed us with medical anatomy, that the uterus is a literal portal. How it's designed, all the ways in which there's interconnectivity with all the different tissues. And I thought, wow, we're barely scratching the surface of the awesomeness of this.
Yes. So ask me some questions, but I'm going to continue with a little bit in terms of what a guy experiences.
Yes.
Now, first of all, a guy is going to be able to actually last longer because this introduces you to another way of moving that isn't this sort of porn style interaction that you see where you're just banging and essentially turn it into an average of 3 to 5 to 7 minutes, which is the average sexual experience that a guy lasts. So just being able to last longer while feeling more pleasure is a revolutionary concept. There's a program called YAFAP where guys can start to train themselves with this, but then when you are interacting, such as we have in 9 Dates or 9 Naughty Nights, then you start to learn a different body mechanic that actually both creates more pleasure, but also then allows for the pleasure to last longer. Yes. It's not just about lasting longer in time. You want longer lasting pleasure, and you want to do it by feeling more, not less.
Well, as a guy, say you're on a mission. You want to build your empire. You want to have enough to provide for whoever, and you're just on a mission. You're mission driven. A lot of times, mission driven men they have this attitude of I can have any woman I want and whenever I want and I just take what I want and I'm done. So why would that type of man who's really driven want to take the time to have this kind of, how is that going to impact his mission?
And so give me the question again, because you're asking me if a guy doesn't really have great intention, he just wants to have sex with as many women as possible?
No, specifically a man who's on a mission. So he's not thinking about being a lover, he's not thinking about being a father, he's not thinking about being a boyfriend.
So you're
or
talking
a
about a
husband.
man who has a life calling. Why would he want to interact with the cervix?
Well, yeah, and they're obsessed. Like they're mission driven. They're working 80 hours, whatever, a week. I don't know what the thing that they're doing, but it's intense. Why would then they take the time to learn this? How is this interaction with the cervix, in the way that we're describing, going to enhance and support his mission?
Here's how. It taps you into an energy source that you have never experienced before. And that energy source is not the type that blinds you, it is the type that opens you to creativity. When your emotional centers are open and you can actually feel and sense more, you'll be taking in new perspectives of information that you wouldn't have considered before, that can systemically change your approach and what you're doing in a way that becomes transformative. So to give a parallel example, some people will go on psychedelic journeys, they'll go through ayahuasca, MDMA, psilocybin, cannabis, some people even with ketamine, to then get their minds open so that way they can see things from other perspectives. I mean, Steve Jobs was notoriously known for when he was talking about, creative ideas and someone chimed in, he essentially says, like, have you done, I forget if it was either MDMA or ayahuasca, and when they said no, he's like, then shut up, your opinion doesn't matter. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I can tell you the psychedelic trance-like states that naturally get induced during these type of sexual experiences opens you up in the same way.
So I want to pause. So what you're saying is not just the woman experiences the psychedelic states. You, through engaging directly with the cervix, can start to enter into those states yourself. That's a really important distinction. So you're not doing all of these things just for her. There's a mutuality to it. You're both going to benefit from it.
Yes. There's also another basic one as well, is that when you interact with your partner this way, the place of respect and reverence and joy that you encounter with that other person, whether it is just a one-off experience and then the two of you have decided that you're just doing this for the sake of creating mutual pleasure,
yes,
or if it's in your 40, 50, 60-year relationship, the intense experience of being able to move beyond just your own body and feel into another person opens you up for just a reverence for life. And now how does that interpret into your calling? It starts to include all people. You then start to go, okay, this is maybe why I'm using my product or why I'm doing the calling that I'm doing. But then you go, this is how it serves the world. And when you can start to think, as Joe Polish says, what's in it for them, that's when then you start to go to whole new heights of success in your calling, in your business life. So being able to have this mutually shared experience with another person via penis connection to the cervix is how you then viscerally, physically, on a carnal level, feel what it's like to be in their body, and you start to experience, okay, this is what's in it for them in the world, but not as a person that's removed from it, but as someone that's participating in it.
I just had a flash of us being at like really stuffy business conferences and like, all right, everyone, in order to 100x your business, you're gonna need to learn to move your body differently in intimacy. Let's stand up. We're gonna get those hips loose. So I just had that flash. I thought
move differently, perform differently, and then have different results. But I mean, it's quite simple thing.
The level of depression and suicide rates for men right now is growing and exponentially. And I feel strongly that when a man can have access to this. Now, I want to be careful here because I'm making it sound like all men, you need to go plug into a cervix to get this. So I would like us to just have a little caveat to this conversation. But I really feel because of what happens to all the neurotransmitters and hormones in this particular type of expanded consciousness sexual exchange, it can really heal these depressive cycles. And I'm not saying that it'll be instant, but I am saying, like, when you start to pop open that one part of your brain that is connected to wonderment and awe, we need that. That is medicine for a human being. To remember that, to experience it daily, that gives you the meaning for being alive.
And so many guys, I mean, you know the experience, and if you're partnered with a man who's very mission driven, sometimes you get so focused on the mission that you can become depressed. You lose perspective on, like, well, what is the greater purpose? How does this even feel to me? So on the most basic level, the amount of natural joy it creates in your being starts to then give meaning and purpose to your actual calling. What's the point of going through and marching through it if there's no joy in it? If not even just at the end of the road, but throughout the process.
Yes.
So this is a way that you can then access joy. Now, you mentioned something about loneliness and depression as well. Another thing that men really struggle with is performance anxiety. Am I big enough? Am I too big? Do I match this person? Can I keep it up long enough? Do I come soon enough? Like, you know, there's all of these issues that come on. I mean, like, the number one reason that is growing in the population of the world with men for different types of erectile dysfunction is not physical. It's actually psychological.
Yes.
So that means it's performance anxiety, and it's happening, the quickest growing rate is those under the age of 40.
Yes.
So if you are a young man who is driving yourself to succeed, and you are then stressed out from life, stressed out from work, 100% focused, you're at the gym, you're doing your things, your body's in a tight state, then you are likely going to have a much higher chance for performance anxiety, also premature ejaculation, and on the other side you can get hit with it as you don't feel yourself and then you have delayed ejaculation. The beauty of interacting with the cervix, as well as moving this way, is that it takes that performance anxiety out of the way. And you start to realize it is the unique gift that you are bringing to the experience that is the gift. So you don't have to try and be the guy that maybe you're watching in porn or, you know, the superstar athlete or whatever. You are more than enough, and that unique imprint that your being brings to a woman is that unique gift that no one can imitate, and she gets to then interact with her uniqueness. And when those two things come together, you have a tremendous experience that is unique.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think that finding your own worth and value as a human being and allowing sexuality to amplify that versus take that away, I think is really, really crucial. Well, I'm starting to get like excited to talk about some of the juicy details.
Of the house stuff?
Yeah, I want to get into that. So,
well, just to summarize though, why you're going to want to begin to explore the cervix, or if you have a partner or you know a woman, there is this amazing program called Awe that we are creating, which is for women to begin to explore and activate this part in themselves. What is going to make you an amazing lover is actually getting out of your own way and getting out of her way so that she can come more online to who she is. And this program here is designed for a woman to be able to learn about her and her anatomy. And then she can even take you through that program with her. It's a follow-up of Awaken the Sensual Woman. And we've had women who've invited their men into that program. And the level that you then are going to learn by being able to trust what she's saying is not just what she doesn't want, but what she does want, is going to take your lovemaking to a whole new level. You'll get completely new insights into her body. And there is nothing more powerful than guiding a woman into being an active receiver as opposed to being dominant so that you don't have to listen to her.
Yeah, I would agree. So joining Awe, I'm guessing there's going to be links with all, wherever this podcast is hosted, we're going to be having links in the description. So please look there, because that's where you'll be able to access it. Otherwise, embodiedloveuniversity.com, that's where the foundationals are, the YAF app that we mentioned, the 9 Naughty Nights. We have so many amazing programs to help human beings just have a lot more fun in this arena of life.
And there are hours of very high impactful content that is free, because we believe this is a human right, which it actually is. This is a human right to have a comprehensive sexual education that brings sexual fluency that goes beyond just your how you identify, but what are the pleasure mechanics of your body as a system of pleasure, the psychological mechanics of it, as well as then the human right for pleasure.
Absolutely. So check that out.
And
if you want to hear, if you want to hear the explicit side, on this side we go deeper into the how. We tell real stories, our own life, clients' life, our past experiences, and we also do an erotic insert that is an audio of us enacting whatever it is that we talked about for
so
that
this
episode.
time we're going to be talking about, well, not talking, we're going to be recording ourselves experiencing cervical pleasure, and not just for you.
Yeah,
but for me as well.
Exactly.
I'm looking forward to that.
Well, let's switch over. So now we're going to dive into my favorite part of doing the podcast, which is all the juicy stories. Aaron, you are definitely a lover of the cervix. You've had plenty of experiences. What was an experience with the cervix that made you go, I just want like more of that? Like, wow, what is that?
Man, how do I even choose an experience? Because in some sense, the way that my self dissolves and the other person's dissolves and our pleasure becomes one, all of the experiences also become one. I feel that you tap into this timeless space. But let's go ahead, and it was, I was working with women using intravaginal touch with de-armoring in sessions to help deal with all sorts of areas of pain and trauma. However, at the same time, I was then looking, well, how does this actually impact the way that I would have sex with my partner? Because as you learn, there are all these sensitivities that a body has, and you need to be very aware of when a person has trauma. But through that, you're able to start to go, well, these are the specific things that just help anybody open into deeper states of pleasure. So not just releasing pain, but opening into raising that ceiling or moving beyond the ceiling of pleasure. So it was probably about 3 years into my relationship with a beautiful woman in Denmark. And we are in the bedroom, and I remember touching this part of her body and starting to use my hips in a way that would elicit and bring down the cervix. And when I connected to this part of her, it was as if there was heat that moved through her body, heat that moved through my body. There was this instant magnetism between the two of us. Time became not a factor. We didn't know where one person began and the other person ended. And the tremendous amount of pleasure and sensation, and specifically what I remember were the sounds that came out of her body. It was, she literally had tears of joy. She ended up going into these writhing, pleasurable movements, and it was as if the sounds that were coming out of her were the things that were moving her body, as opposed to, being in the performative state where it's like, oh, I'm going to move this way, or even like thinking technically, I'm going to do this, or here, let's make this sound to turn on the guy. It was the sounds that were coming out of her were then causing a vibration in her body, a vibration in my body, and her whole body sunk up with that sound. And it was as if her heart became as large as the galaxy itself. And the amount of glow then that she had, her eyes were glassed over, she had this big smile, she was in a state of breathlessness, and myself, I was swept into that as well. And I don't know who was riding whose waves of pleasure at that point, but the sensation, the experience, the emotions, the connection that we felt was just beyond words.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit more, because this episode is to really help men understand like what's in it for as a guy. Did you have to learn to move differently, or were you always moving this way, or what kind of happened in your body when you started to figure out, oh, if I do this, the cervix comes to me versus...
So in the sessions that I was doing to help women relieve pain, whether it was period pain, whether it was past trauma, the way that the cervix was being stimulated was not just this banging in. In fact, it was not that at all.
Yeah.
Instead, it was establishing a connection, getting the cervix to actually come down and move towards the person. This is what I was using with my fingers. Yes. As well as then the ability to stimulate it 360 degrees around, and then being able to swish over the top side and the underside, the left side to the right side. And so as I was noticing the impact that this had doing with my finger, I was like, well, how would that happen during a sexually penetrative experience? Yes. And
you're a sex nerd, so you got curious.
So I got curious. But the beauty of it was that it wasn't such a mental thing, is that once you then go, okay, well, if I move my hips in this way, this is creating that effect. The sensation itself started leading to more discoveries, because it's like, this feels really good. There is a suction seal that gets created, not just between the penis and the entrance to the vagina, the third of the way into the vagina, 2/3 of the way into the vagina, into the depths of the vagina, but between the head of the penis and the cervix itself. And so once you can create that suction seal, as well as then begin to maintain the suction seal while going into deeper states of pleasure, your body will start to naturally move in a completely different way.
Yes, I love that. Sounds really yummy.
Well, we're going to have fun doing that erotic recording.
Ooh, yes. I'm very curious. So one of the questions that we received is, okay, this is all fine, but it sounds like there's a lot of prep and there's a lot of things you need to do and a lot of techniques you need to know. How does this work like in a quickie for us busy people?
Well, for a person who is busy, I want you to know this, and this is a huge piece of advice that you hear out there, that a woman's system of pleasure she can't reach orgasm or truly go into it until you stimulate her for over 45 minutes minimum.
It was 21 minutes and now it's gone to 45.
And now I'm starting to see an hour.
Okay. So I do love to receive pleasure for that long. I think some of that is just what's happening with the woman's body. Is she just lying there and not breathing and like holding? Like, because if it takes that long to get any sensation anywhere, there's something there. And so that's a separate issue, I think.
If a woman is not going into deeper states of pleasure or can't reach orgasm until after 45 minutes, then one or both parties are doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And I want to explain that.
Not to shame anyone, but wrong is that you don't know better, and if you knew a few things, everything would change.
Yes. And this is the caveat I want to say on you're doing something wrong. It's not that it's wrong often in the moment, though that's also likely the case, but you need to have already activated the body in a way that it stays aroused. Most people think a sexual experience start from unaroused to then bringing into arousal, and so then then it can take the 45 minutes, which I would still say no. But if you are creating stimulation in this way, the baseline of engorgement, which is a measurable fact you can look at in terms of like how much blood is in a woman's pleasure system, as well as then how like juicy she's staying, meaning like how much lubrication she maintains, it stays at a higher level. So if you're going from 0 to nothing, then that, or from 0 and nothing to something, then that is going to take longer. But if you start to work in the way that is the system of suction sex, a woman's body maintains a higher state of arousal, which means then you can even have cervical quickies, meaning that you can start to go into orgasm, you can start going into deep pleasure states, you can start feeling these trance-like states just from contact or even from the moment of insertion. And that isn't just the, oh, I feel a stretch and now it feels good for 30 seconds. But yes, like you're literally engulfing the other person into their universe. And so that means for the woman that she has a much quicker access as well as a longer maintained access to her pleasure. But then for the guy, you aren't like having to do this hours of work, like where your mouth has to be holding lots of pressure to stimulate the clitoris. I just saw this one little podcast episode that a guy's like talking about. You need to at least stimulate this woman for an hour, and then when you're doing the thing that's getting her to come, you need to continue holding that pressure. And he was just saying like it was a tiring experience, but you have to do that. And if you go to penetration right then, you lose the whole effect, and then you have to start over again.
Wow, that's
which is like so much work. No wonder why there's performance anxiety.
and no wonder why a lot of people are like, oh, why do I even bother with this experience?
Yes, exactly. So that is why I say if you're doing this, it takes 45 minutes, then you're doing something wrong. That is the before part. You need to be bringing women into full erectile function. Most women are not in full erectile function. Throughout the sexual experience, even after the 45 minutes, if all you're doing is stimulating the clitoris, and then in addition, they're not staying in that state. It's like if you are a guy and you have an erection, you do not, let's say, ejaculate, or you've been just a while since you have, your cock is holding a lot of blood flow, a lot of sensation, but at least you've felt what it's like to have an erection. Most women are not. It would be most women are having the equivalent of a guy just having the head of his penis stimulated, and that's it, because all they're doing is they're stimulating the head of the clitoris. And sure, you can have an orgasm from that. You could get some pleasure from it, but that's not the same experience as if your entire cock is fully charged, fully erect. And so for the same thing for a woman, that you have her whole CUV complex as well as the cervix just inundated with blood, oxygen, and sensation.
I love that, and I want to refocus on the male experience because we spent the other episode going very deep into. So if you haven't heard that episode, is it Cervix in the Sky? Or I forget.
Yes.
The one before this one. Definitely listen to that because there's a lot of details in that one. But I want to just ask, from a male cock perspective, is there any difference if you do just stimulate the clitoris and when you do have full erectile female function? Like, what is the difference? Is it a sensorial difference? Like, I'm just curious, why would it matter to a guy? I know what it matters to a woman, but why bother as a guy?
Well, this is a hot topic. And I don't know if it's because we're in Greece here or not, but
You're sweating.
I'm starting to get a little bit, I mean, it's hot here, but I think it's also the topic. So let's go into this. For a guy, if you bring a woman into full erectile function, and aside from all the pleasures that it's going to bring her, from your own sensation, you start to feel what her vaginal walls feel like when they reach full engorgement. It literally suctions onto you. You get 300 degrees sensation. 360 degrees of sensation all the way around the penis. You get to experience a woman's pussy literally like a hyperbaric chamber. I mean, it's like the pressure is all the way around, and it doesn't come from this place of tense, of being tense, of being tight, of trying to squeeze. Her whole body stays in this fluid motion. So visually, it is beautiful. Sensationally, it is beautiful. The emotions and impact that you get to feel inside yourself is absolutely stunning. But just from like the biophysiology, like there is this sucking that starts to happen, and her pussy essentially feels like a mouth. A lot of guys are like, I actually kind of prefer a blowjob over sex. Well, if you're one of those guys, and even if you're not, this is how her pussy becomes a mouth. This is how her temple comes alive. And I use the word temple because this is a place that, you sing praises to whatever you sing to. Well, the pussy's literally like, whoa, like singing on your cock. And you will feel these deep quivering states within her being as she starts to tremble in pleasure that sends ripples of sensation up through your body. And it can feel like water. Like if you've seen whitewater rapids, imagine whitewater rapids, but like flowing up your stomach and through your front side. And I don't want to always use those descriptors because they can feel different.
Yeah, it's probably
and different levels of intensity.
Flavor.
The other part is that it feels, it can feel electric, sort of as if, you know, here is your penis. There's like this static charge of crackling energy that is completely around the penis, and it is being generated between the two of you. And we had one client, I really love this description. He's like, it's that sensation that you just can't get enough of.
Yes. I want to just kind of popped into my head a quote from my first boyfriend, long time ago. And he and I broke up because he wanted to have experiences with other women. And I was like, okay, then go do that on your own. I don't want to be part of it. And so he did. And somehow, inevitably, we came back together because there was a lot of chemistry there. And he'd had his experiences. I said, well, what was it like? And he said, it was weird, but it felt like their vaginas were just like hollow, empty spaces. There wasn't much going on there. And so sex, yeah, it was hot because it was a new person, but it wasn't really that exciting. And we're talking early 20s. We're not talking, like, this is a young person dating young people saying that there's vaginas just don't feel like there's much going on. And then with me, I was asking, well, what's the difference? It's like, there's this, I don't know, a lot of movement, a lot of texture. And I think partly it was just because most of us women are taught that clitoral orgasm, clitoral stimulation is the way to be sexual with ourselves or others and be satisfied. But I was always, from very young, putting fingers inside and really moving my body around my fingers from at least as young as 5, as far as I can remember. And so I think that there was a development of what you're talking about, female engorgement, all the way in the past. And so I think that's the main difference.
Well, I want to speak about this aliveness because that is a whole other part of the sensation that you get to feel as a guy when a woman reaches this full erectile function and the cervix becomes active. Sensationally, where we're being taught to, women should do Kegels, women should have a tight pussy, women should squeeze. That would be like a hand squeezing around your penis.
Death grip.
Great. And some people go like, oh, it even feels like I'm in a headlock. And that's the kind of pinnacle of an experience that a woman can give a guy and that a guy can experience with a woman.
Yeah.
The difference with this would be, have you seen Under the Sea how everything is moving and flowing all together in unison, and there isn't one part of the seabed that isn't alive and active? And if you look at like sea anemone or kelp, like it has this incredible movement. So when you are inside a fully activated and empowered vagina, it's as if all the walls are moving in unison, but independently. And I mean, just last night, I was interacting with your cervix, first with my hand and then with my cock. And other times it's without the hand, just the cock. And we could be moving fast or we could be moving slow. And it just felt that everything was being stimulated in its own rhythm. It was the difference between, you know, a one instrument being played, an entire symphony of instruments. And so your pussy's pleasure became symphonic. It was absolutely incredible. And when you experience that, you go, well, forget this other model where, you know, you can have an experience that at most is going to last this much time. Here, it could just go on as long as we wanted. We'd fall asleep and then still continue to like wake up and be still making love.
The one thing that was noticeable about last night's experience for me was there were really intense moments of movement.
Yes.
But then there were moments where we didn't move at all. the movement was internal. We were breathing into each other. And in the breathing into each other, there was like these, I don't know how to explain it, just something opening up.
Well, when you were breathing, it wasn't just okay, we're breathing together. We're doing some eye gazing exercise.
Oh, it's too dark for that.
Every breath you took corresponded with internal movement that was happening. So breath itself generated sensation. Breath itself created more of this electro charge between our bodies. And ultimately, breath itself started to activate a magnetism between us where you could not help but vocalize your pleasure. And I was brought into vocalization as well, not just from the pleasure I was feeling through your body, but the pleasure that was moving through my own body. And then the emotions that were activated. It was just this deep state of love. There was a whole other level of reverence. This is the Gnostic path. If you gain this knowledge through experience,
through the direct
experience of it, and the mechanics, which I think we can start to get into, as well as what to do and how to do it, we can go into that. In fact, I'm going to keep this part of the podcast in for the free side, because this is more of the why that people need to hear, and then we'll dive into the how now.
Let's continue this conversation into the explicit portion of this podcast. To do that, upgrade now.